Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a quick review on the Taurus PT100 AF, chambered at 40 caliber. So let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so here it is, the Taurus PT100 AF. This is an all-metal gun with a metal slide and the metal grip frame. This does have the wood grips on the frame. So let's go ahead and just go through all the features and talk about it just a little bit. So with the muzzle pointed to the left, at the top of the slide, you'll find your single one-dot sight. And if you could see, all the paint is gone out of this sight, so that's going to need some attention. This gun's going to need some love to get back to being a nice and happy firearm. So as you come down the slide, you'll notice that the slide is ported and the barrel is exposed. And the slide is rounded as opposed to square. At the back of the slide is going to be your standard 2-dot U-cut sight. This has got a really shallow cut in it. Plus, if you can see, somebody's done foul to the dots. So my plan is just to go ahead and replace this rear sight at some point in time. Probably the first thing I'll do is address the two sights, get some paint down in here and get a new sight on the back here. Then along the slide at the back is going to be your serrations. This has the angle cut serrations, and it's got a bunch of them in there. It's got it on the left and the right hand side of the gun. You can still get a pretty good grip on it. The slide does action pretty well. This is a double action, single action pistol. So the hammer does have a half cock option or the full cock option also. At the bottom of the slide on the grip frame below the serrations is going to be your manual safety. This gun is empty. It has been safety checked. And whether or not there's a round chamber, the hammer's cocked, or it's completely empty, you can activate the safety on this firearm. And it also acts as a decocker. So when it's fully cocked, your safety will pull down instead of pushing up, and it'll decock and it'll put it into the half cocked position. Then in front of that on the grip frame is going to be your slide stop, slide release lever. It's pretty easy to use, moves up and down pretty easy. Gives you a nice little thumb pad to land onto. Pretty soft pull to get it to go home. Then in front of that on the frame is going to be your takedown lever. We'll talk about taking it apart here in just a minute, but the takedown lever also has a button here just on the left hand side of the gun. Nice little round button at the bottom of the takedown lever. And on the other side, it's going to have an elongated oval, and that's going to be what you're going to use to take it apart. Like I said, we'll talk about that in just a minute. But since we're on the right hand side of the gun, right above the trigger well, you'll be able to see or feel a lever sticking out of the grip. And when you activate the trigger, that moves forward. I'm not really familiar with that. This is the first gun I've ever seen that does that. Not really a big fan of it. Wouldn't not have the gun because of it, but I'm not really sure why they put that there. But if I was going to give a thumbs down to something on this gun, this would definitely be on that list. But as we go back to the rest of the features, back to the left hand side with the muzzle pointed to the left, below the takedown lever is going to be your trigger well. This has got a pretty good sized trigger well on it, so if you need to wear gloves, if you're going to be shooting in the cold or whatever, you can definitely get your finger in there. As you pull through the trigger, it will stop on half cock and then pull straight through. But just so you know, it will stop on half cock, and you'll be able to hear a pretty audible click once you get it into the half cock position. Below the trigger well is going to be your magazine release. It's only on the left hand side of the gun, and it works pretty good. Then we have the grips. These are the wood grips. I'm going to go ahead and guess that this is a cherry finish. I don't really know much about finishes and all that kind of stuff, but it looks kind of cherry to me. They're not bad. They're in good shape. They're still shiny. They're not cracked or anything yet. Then we have the Taurus logo right there in the middle. One thing I did notice about this gun is the back strap is really wide, especially with these wood grips on there. You definitely get a full grip of firearm. Like, it takes up your hand quite a bit. Still, it feels comfortable. It feels good. It's just definitely a wide grip. And then the beaver tail on the back curves down and out as opposed to up. And you'll be able to see that there's a pretty decent space between your hand and the slide and your hammer and the meat of your hand. so you shouldn't get slid bit or hammer bit unless you've got your hand just in totally the wrong place. So let's go ahead and go back to the trigger and see what the trigger's like to pull. This is a double action, single action. So as you pull through double action, there's quite a bit of resistance there, but I wouldn't say it's overly heavy, and it's very smooth. There's no choppiness to it. Then the reset, pretty short travel and a real smooth, easy, crisp secondary pull, which I like quite a bit. So I like the trigger. I'm not really, everybody knows that I'm not a trigger expert by any means with pounds and different names and all that kind of stuff. Usually when I buy a gun, I keep the trigger that's in it. And so this one isn't bad. I wouldn't complain about this one. Let's go ahead and take it apart and see what's on the inside. In order to take this apart, what I do is I rock the slide back and lock it open. Then going back to the right hand side of the gun, pushing toward the left on that oval, and you pull down 90 degrees on your takedown lever. Slowly release the slide and then pull it off the top of the frame. And that way you can inspect the internals of your frame, wipe it down, oil it, whatever it is you're going to need to do. Then back to the slide. Once again, I'll show you a picture. The barrel is completely exposed, which is kind of cool. I like that. I think that's pretty neat looking. Then we have your guide rod and spring. If you just push the guide rod and spring toward the muzzle of the gun and pull up just a little bit, the spring and guide rod will come out, so you can inspect that and clean that up. On this gun, this is the first time I've ever had a gun that does this. This has got the barrel is locked into the slide, and if you look down in the slide about halfway back at the end of the barrel, there's a little black knob right there. If you push in on that, that allows the barrel to come up out of the gun. It unlocks it from the slide. And we'll go ahead and look at that. This little black plastic piece right here is what locks it into the slide. And it's the first time for me with a gun like that that does that. And then go ahead and inspect your slide, wipe it down, oil it and everything. This gun does need to be cleaned, so forgive me. Putting it back together, you just do it the opposite way. Make sure everything's locked into position. I am going to put you on pause because all the oil is all over my fingers. But to put the spring and guide rod back in, works just like any other pistol. Go ahead and line it up and push forward. Let me see if I can do it. Okay, I got it. Last time I tried it, it slipped out of my hands, and I wasn't trying to put that on camera. Then going ahead and put the slide back on the frame. Line up your guide rods. Go ahead and rack it back just about an inch or so. You don't have to pull it all the way back. And then take your finger and flip up on the takedown lever. Let go. Give it a nice function check. Make sure everything's working well. And there you go. There's the Taurus PT 100 AF chambered in .40 caliber. Appreciate you watching. Please leave some comments below.